Hi. So it's morning over here. So I will just say good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everybody from wherever you are listening to me or watching me. My name is Evelyn, and I'm here at Experimentation, the conference. I will be speaking to you on life is an experiment. About me, I lead product development at Alfred Kenwood. Now, let's get into it. What is the meaning of life? Oftentimes we mention life. What does life really mean? Life is a characteristic that distinguishes physical entities that have biological processes such as signaling and self-sustaining processes from those that do not. So this literally means there are some entities that do not have these characteristics, while some have it. So by Wikipedia, those elements that have these characteristics are portioned, are grouped to be elements that have life. Now, sometimes some elements have this characteristic, but they cease to have it, and we can say they no longer have life. Now, another definition is the condition that distinguishes animals and plants from inorganic matter, including the capacity for growth, for reproduction, for functional activity, and continual change preceding death. So this also means that there are some animals and plants that do not have this capacity. So life singularly distinguishes the animals and plants that have the capacity and those that do not have the capacity. Now, life is all about constant, never ending improvement. It just keeps going, and no one really knows the end. Oh, this is where it's going to end. No. At this time, nobody knows where the end is, or that can say, okay, at this time, this is the end. So by choosing to live your life as an experiment, you are committing yourself to growth and development. Now, why would I want to choose to live my life as an experiment? We have established the fact that life is the ability for us to grow, to reproduce, to engage in functional activities, which is life. And there are some um, there are some organic matters that cannot function this way, which is what distinguishes them from the ones that are alive and the ones that are not alive. So why? Oftentimes we sit down, we look at it. Why should we really live our lives as an experiment? What is the assurance? What is the guarantee that if I live my life as an experiment, I will grow, or there will be that iota of personal development? Let's look at it together. So this leads us to what is an experiment. We've established what life is. Now, what is an experiment? An experiment is a test done in order to learn something or to discover if something works or if it is true. Because we are not sure of the outcome, you need to try it out to know if it works or not, if it is true or not. It's a test. Now, another definition is a scientific procedure undertaking to make a discovery. Now, you go through the process, the procedure, the steps to make a discovery. There is the end goal. There is something that we want to validate. There is something that we want to ascertain. There is something that we want to say it's true or not. So this will make us go through a process, a procedure to demonstrate that that hypothesis is true, or to test an hypothesis, or to demonstrate a known fact. In some situations, we even know that this is a fact, but we really want to demonstrate that it is a known fact. Now, another one is experiment is a test, right? trial, or tentative procedure. It's not a permanent procedure at this time. It is tentative because we're just trying to establish something here. Now, it is an act or operation for the purpose of discovering something unknown. We could also use experiment to get to discover something that is unknown. Now, at this time, this is not it's not known to us. We don't even have an idea what the end result might be. We don't know what will happen or what will not happen. So, in the process of an experiment, we want to validate that unknown. We want to discover the unknown. We want to test a principle or want to test an assumption or a supposition. Now, all experiments, all involves collecting observation. So we would have observed something in the process, in the procedure, and we will choose to validate that our assumption or that observation that we have collected. Or we are also observing actions to try to answer a question or solve a problem. So there is a problem, there is a question that we are unable to answer, we are unable to ascertain, but how we might be able to get an answer or how we might be able to ascertain this, we need to observe some things, the preceding steps that led to that observation, the preceding steps that led to that problem or the questions. Now, when somebody comes up with a question, something had triggered that question. What are the steps? We need to observe everything that led to that question or everything that led to that particular problem so we can really, really validate what might be the cause or we get answers to our questions in the course of experimenting. So why should we experiment? Why? We have established life is uncertain, it's either life or death, is inanimate. So we've also established experiment. We have questions, we have assumptions, we have observations. Now we're trying to look at the preceding steps, the preceding events, the actions that led to all of these questions or our observations. So, but why do we need to carry out experiments? Why should we experiment generally? In a fast-paced, competitive, and continually advancing world that we are in right now, experimentation is the only way. Take it again. Today, our world is fast paced, it's competitive, and it's continually advancing. We can't just sit and wait for things to happen. We can't sit and wait for events to roll out. We can't sit and predict a future that we did not feature in. Experimentation will help us contribute into the outcome of that future. Whatever we want the future to look like, we have the ability to contribute in that result that we are expecting for the future. And how do we contribute? We need to experiment because the future is unknown. We don't know what it means. We don't even know what might happen. In the course of observing the preceding events that led to the present time, we are able to observe, we are able to read, we are able to see the trends, we are able to experiment, and also be able to contribute to the result of the future that we want. Now, experiment is the only way to enhance high innovative teams in our organizations, across board, in our homes. If we want our team to be innovative, experiment is the only way out. Now, experimentation is the only way to live in a competitive market. The market is highly competitive. Far more than decades ago, the competition right now is very, very tough. And how can we lead? We need to be able to experiment. Experimentation also helps to breed high performing teams that challenge the status quo and not just teams that just receive instructions, not just teams that are all about execution. So, how will our team be able to challenge the status quo? How will they become high performing team? Experimentation is the solution for them. Now, like we said, experiments are all about discovery and growth. There is no real failure in an experiment. So another good reason why we should experiment is because there is no real failure. It's all about data. So in our experimentation, whatever the result is, or whatever the result might be, we are gathering data. So if we have that at the back of our minds, that we are gathering data when we are experimenting, we will find out that it is key to open a lot of doors that are currently closed. Now, experiments can be used to introduce new ideas. So I have this idea right there in my head, and I'm unable to reach a conclusion. How am I sure the idea is real or is even genuine? I will need to experiment, and my experiment will give me data to back those ideas up. Then experiments can also help us clarify puzzling aspects of our struggles. So we might have some puzzles, we have things that are not clear, we have this struggle within our mind. It's either A or B. What could it be? So when we engage in experiments, when we carry out experiments, it will help us to analyze, to clarify the puzzles. An experiment also helps to build ownership of a new idea. So when you experiment, you've carried out experiments, you're able to build the ownership of that idea because you have something to back it up. You have tested it out. You have tested that idea, and it also scaffolds learning. So in all, you're seeing why life is an experiment, and we need to really experiment. Now, going next, let's see some advantages of experimentation. What do we stand to gain? What do we stand to gain? What's good about experimentation? Now, experimentation will bring transformation because you've tested your ideas, you've tested those assumptions. There is room for transformation to occur. Experimentation also helps navigate uncertainty. So, from that mind, that puzzle in our head, once we experiment, we're able to navigate from uncertainty. We are able to move to an arena where our puzzles, our ideas are no longer puzzles, but we have started gaining clarity to all of these ideas. Then experimentation helps us build resilience. This has played out in the course of my career, in the course of my life. I've seen it with my mentors. I've even seen mentees build resilience from experimentation. Then experimentation also helps us embrace ambiguity. Now, when we experiment, we're able to see multiple ways to approach a problem. Right there in our head, we might just have a particular idea, and we might believe, okay, if I do this, this is the solution to the problem, or this is the idea that might work. But by experimenting, we're able to validate if it is really true. We're able to see multiple ways to approach a problem, and we're able to see more than one solution. Personally, when I got into the digital space, when I got into tech, was when I started understanding that there are many ways to solve a particular problem. There are even many ways to see the problem. A particular problem in the eyes of 10 users signifies 10 different problems because they all see it differently. It affects their lives differently. So when we experiment, we're able to embrace ambiguity and see multiple ways. We'll be able to broaden our horizon. We will not be limited to a particular scope or mindset. And we'll be able to see more than one solution to a particular problem. Another advantage of experimentation is experimentation gives insights into tweaking approach. So when we experiment, we're able to come back and we structure and we strategize and we frame our assumptions. We're able to make adjustments. We're able to tweak it where necessary, tweak it slightly, bend it over a little. Okay, no, I've experimented A. Okay, it shouldn't be A, it should be B. I should go this way. We're able to do all of that after we might have experimented that idea. Or we can start again. So because there is no failure in experiment, we are gathering data. We can pick our learnings from our initial experiments and start all over again. It's a win-win situation when we experiment. Now, Gemma Le Roberts says an experimental mindset never fails. You are just always learning. It's all about learning, learning, learning. So when I talk to my mentees and some persons around me, I call myself chief learner because it's quite interesting for me to just drop everything I know to relearn things, to unlearn, relearn, and learn new things. And experimentation has given me this new insight into learning, which is what brought about the name Chief Learner. Now, we established that experimentation leads to transformation. However, there is a problem. Why is transformation so hard? Experimentation will lead us to be transformed. We transform a whole lot of things. But today we see experimentation is, where transformation, is very, very hard. Why? Now, transformation is challenging for two distinct reasons. The future state is unknown. Of any transformation, the future state is unknown, and it is determined through trial and error as new information is gathered. So when we're gathering the new information, doing our experiments, we are able to determine a state, or we start forming the state of transformation. At the initial point, it is vague because we don't know the result. But when we start experimenting, we start validating our assumptions, then we start molding the transformation that we desire. Now, the actual process of transformation is embedded in the experiments. This is where the transformation is hard. The actual process, how to move from an unknown state to a known state, is embedded in the experiment. An experiment, many people see it as that scary, unpredictable place where stress skyrockets and emotions run high. At that point, there is a lot of unknown that we need to validate at the point in time. For us to be able to undergo the transformation that we desire, we need to experiment. We need to mold we need to mold that transformation. And at that point, we need new mindsets, new behaviors. A new mindset, new behavior is the only key to drive and embrace transformation. And that transformation will give sorry, I mean, is required to drive and embrace experiment. And that experiment is what will give rise to transformation. So, see how we have established what life is, and we'll bring it down to experiment. It's either A or B. We want to try out new ideas. We have these things struggling in our heads, in our mind, and we want to try it out. We need to experiment. And once we open up our minds to experimentation, disregarding the fact that that state is unknown, a lot of things can happen at the state of experimenting. The end result, the goal, is what we should have in mind, that there is no failure in experiment. We are just gathering data to validate our assumption. And this experiment will give rise to transformation. That inner shift of mind, the illuminated mindset, gives rise, births the experimental mindset. In life, generally, a mindset that wins is the experimental mindset. And people over the world, across the globe, businesses, individuals need to have that inner shift of mind. We need to embrace experiment across product management, across our various roles, across our lives generally. We need to embrace that experimental mindset. We shouldn't allow fear of the unknown keep us in a particular state. There is a lot in the unknown that we will know, that we will validate, that can transform us if we experiment. In conclusion, Feel Good says the realm of the possible continues to expand every day. And how does that happen? So the quote, the realm of the possible continues to expand. Every day sees new advances in science and technology. The digital revolution has only just begun, and no one knows what the future would look like. Experimentation, I say, is the first step into the future. Thank you. Thank you very much for listening. And Experiment Nation, the conference. Thank you so much.